नमस्कार। आज की हमारी स्पीकर हैं सिस्टर सुवर्लिना। वैसे तो उनको हम इस कोविड पीरियड में इतना सुना देखा है कि उनके इंट्रोडक्शन की ज़रूरत नहीं है, किंतु यह एक ज़रूरत है। So I would say a few words about her. Sister Suvarlina Mohanty is MSc in Mathematics and has postgraduate diploma in HR Management. She has more than 25 years of industry experience in strategic HR management, research and delivery in training and development. She was introduced to Theosophical Society by Sister Mitalini and Pradeep Mahapatra, and she joined TS in 2003 as a member of Siddhartha Lodge, Bhubaneswar under Utkal Federation. She moved to Delhi NCR in 2008 and got her membership transferred to Shankar Lodge of Delhi Theosophical Federation until she was relocated to Ghaziabad in UP, where she founded a new lodge, Prayas Theosophical Lodge, in 2017. The members of the lodge are mostly young children and youth for whom she conducts weekly meetings and also conducts seminars, special study classes, workshop, etc. from time to time. She is a life member of TS of Theosophical Society of India. She has addressed in youth camps on motivating and leading youth. She is associated with NGOs and organizations working for holistic development of children. During her membership of last 17 years, Suvarlina ji has also been an active Theosophical TOS member working for poor and underprivileged children. She took charge of TOS Delhi region in 2016 as regional secretary and has been dedicatedly working under the guidance of senior members of TOS. She has organized various seminars and has got the privilege of delivering a talk in TOS session of International Convention of 2018. And yesterday only she was moderating our President Tim Boyd for the study class conducted by him. On personal front, she possesses a positive outlook towards life. She is a firm believer of unity of life and leads life as a follower of natural laws and laws of karma, observing her own self with practical aspect of spiritual science of her personal identities. She prefers to be a theosophist first. Today she is going to tell us about Gayatri, the five-faced goddess, mother of Vedas, who is her faces represent the five tattvas, and the Gayatri mantra, known to be the most powerful mantra, creating 110,000 sounds in 1 second if it is recited. It is in the honor or glory of the creator of the universe and the sun. So with these few words, over to Suvarlina for her illumination on this subject. Suvarlina.
Thank you, ma'am, for your elaborate introduction. I don't think I deserve that elaborated introduction.
You deserve.
Okay. And first of all, this topic, Gayatri, I think it's very contextual. While we are actually, in this Dashera and Durga Puja mode of our life, and I can see almost every day there is a new vibe of a new Rupa, a new avatara of the Shakti. And as you rightly said, Gayatri, it's not just a mantra, it's a source of a very primitive energy, or we could say a mantra of all mantras, kind, right? And maybe heart center of all mantras, or whatever way somebody could describe it. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk about why Gayatri, why it was given to us by our old sages, and what is the origin of it, what is the significance of it.
Everybody is able to hear?
Am I
Yes, madam.
Okay. And why are people, not even elderly people, I can see even younger kids, the first mantra any family member could teach a child is the Gayatri Mantra. Like they would say, Beta Gayatri Mantra sunao. That is a very way of life in India, at least, right? So that is why this quest for Gayatri arose in me. And I had read this book of Brother I.K. Tamni, and I'm sure some of you would have read that book. Whatever I'm going to talk about is mostly from that book, which I studied and absorbed. So you could say it's a book summary even. Okay. So let us read it together, I would say. It's not a talk. It's a book summary, which I'm going to present before you. Now, this meditative utterance of this Gayatri, it has been an integral part of the daily practice of the Hindus, as we all know. And probably this shows that the Hindu sages attached a very great importance, not only in the life of those Hindus who were deeply religious and were seriously pursuing the ideal of spiritual emancipation, but also in the life of the average Hindu who was living the ordinary worldly life and in the pursuit of so-called happiness. Take, for instance, the complete immersion of the common man in the life around him without any thought of awareness of the background against which human life should be seen. Most of us are utterly oblivious of the fact that we are here for a very brief period and are an insignificant part of the vast and apparently unlimited universe. We enter this life by the gateway of birth, and after spending some years on this planet, under all kinds of circumstances, we disappear by the gateway of death. Very normal thing, we know it. Thus has been going on for thousands of years, and yet it doesn't occur to many of us to ask the very pertinent questions as to where we have come from, where we shall go, and why we are here. Many of us who are pursuing wholeheartedly the temporary aims in search of happiness know theoretically that this search is futile and real happiness can be found only within oneself by raising the consciousness to higher levels and gradually transcending the illusions and limitations of the lower life. But still, we do nothing to bring about the necessary changes in our life. Why? The perception of the deeper truths of life and the inner significance, even of the ordinary facts with which we come in contact every day, depends not upon reason or the exercise of the lower mind, but upon the higher spiritual faculty, which we call buddhi, intuition, right? The intellect may know all the facts, but unless and until it is illuminated by the light of buddhi, it will fail to see the deeper significance. Now, when we talk about Gayatri Mantra, this is the chief element in daily practice or worship occurs in all our four Vedas. Although the powers and virtues attributed to the mantra generally expressed in hyperbolic language, which cannot be taken at its face value, still, this universal and overwhelming evidence regarding the great importance of the mantra should leave no doubt in the mind of the reader. That is, capable of unfolding our spiritual faculties in a remarkable manner, provided it is used properly. This is important. If we use it properly, then only. Now, Gayatri is a subject of very deep significance, for it is concerned with the relation between man and the universe, the reality which underlies both. The whole cognizable universe is the external expression of a transcendental reality, which is beyond our senses, beyond even the scope of our intellect. This reality, which is in common parlance is referred to as God, manifest on one hand as the inanimate universe, which we see around us, extending on every side and on different planes, and on the other in the form of innumerable jivatmas, who are essentially of the nature of consciousness and who may be considered as active centers in the transcendental reality. Now, according to the doctrines of Hindu philosophy, in the state known as the unmanifest reality, Nirguna Brahma, consciousness and power are present as one, undifferentiated and undistinguishable. When manifestation takes place, the primary differentiation is into consciousness and power of Shiva and Shakti. The Shakti differentiates further into innumerable powers corresponding to the multifarious functions which have to be performed in the manifested universe. Each power of Shakti being matched by the corresponding function of consciousness. Now, the liberating function of Ishvara, which frees souls from bondage, in which the power of illusion involves them, these two functions lie at the basis of paths of involution and evolution, which we call Prabriti and Nibriti. These are like two streams flowing in opposite directions. As Ekoham Bahushyam, I am the one and shall become many, starts the process of bondage, so Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, we meditate upon the divine light of the Lord, starts the reverse process of release from bondage. The involution into matter is brought about by identification with matter. The evolution out of matter is brought about by identification with consciousness. The more we identify ourselves with matter, the more we sink into matter and become slaves of ourselves and our environment. The more we identify ourselves with consciousness, the more we become free from the material universe. Hindu religion brings us symbolic forms assigned to Trinity. Each form represents some power, attribute, or function. The objects chosen as symbols are generally those with which the ordinary man is familiar with, like the crescent moon on the head of Shiva. It symbolizes periodicity of time. The conch shell in the hand of Vishnu symbolizes nada, sound, the power hidden in the sound rather. The rosary in the hand of Brahma symbolizes meditative repetition. The symbology of Gayatri is the same as that of the Trinity. The only difference being that the form is female instead of male. I'll just explain this way here. The power of creation, preservation, and destruction, as we know, these are all represented by Saraswati, Lakshmi, and Kali, who are called the consorts of Brahma, Vishnu, and Rudra, respectively. Therefore, if a devotee wants learning like Vidya, he worships Saraswati. If he wants wealth, he invokes Lakshmi. If he wants help in dire calamity, he appeals to Kali. But if he does not want anything material, which the three divinities can give through their respective feminine counterparts, but the person wants Ishvara himself, he should invoke Gayatri. Because Gayatri represents the power which can enable him to unite his consciousness with that of Ishvara, and thus to know him.
Hello? Hello?
हेलो
सुवर्लिना जी, हैंग हुआ आपका? डॉक्टर साहब सुन पा रहे हैं आप?
कनेक्शन ऑफ हो गया। नहीं, मैंने सुन पा रहा हूँ। स्वर्णिला जी का हैंग हो गया लगता है।
हाँ,
कनेक्शन प्रॉब्लम।
तनेजा जी प्लीज कॉल कीजिए।
हाँ, वो सुवर्लिना जी से बात हुई है, उनका लैपटॉप बंद हो गया है, वो थोड़ी देर में वापस आ रही है।
Am I audible and visible now?
Yes.
I'm so sorry.
No
I
problem.
don't know
Yes,
how my
yes.
No problems.
No.
Okay.
This is beyond us.
Okay.
So
Okay.
after that, they are the consort and a person wants to
Yes.
raise his consciousness from there.
So basically, I was talking about how Gayatri represents the power which can enable us to unite the consciousness with Ishvara. So
Okay.
beyond, Saraswati, Lakshmi, and Kali.
Yes, yes.
So each obtains what he wants. We know it. We will obtain whatever we will want and ask. But surely it shows utter lack of wisdom to ask him, the Almighty, the Supremacy, merely for things which he can give instead of the privilege of knowing him and becoming one with him. So it is up to us whether we are going to ask him to give us something materialistic, or we should know him and become one with him. This knowing can take place at 3 levels: intellectual, intuitional, and real. As long as the individual is confined within the realm of the forms, he cannot see Ishvara directly through forms. He can feel in the most vital and exquisite manner the love, bliss, beauty, and power of this reality within himself. So when the I disappears completely and only the reality hidden behind the I remains, it is then that the Ishvara can be known as he really is. So let us now take up for consideration the Gayatri mantra through the instrumentality of which her power can be invoked and utilized for the unfoldment of human consciousness and for obtaining the ultimate goal of human effort, which is self-realization. Before attempting to examine and understand the Gayatri mantra, we should know what a mantra is. The Gayatri meditation merges with the technique of a yoga in its higher stage, and no one can appreciate fully its different aspects who's not generally familiar with the theory and technique of yoga. The particular branch of yoga, as we know, which is especially involved in Gayatri meditation, is mantra yoga. The basic doctrine underlying mantra yoga is that all this hard and tangible universe which we see around us is made up of only different kinds of vibrations and energies working at different levels. The things which appear so solid and real are not what they seem, but are merely the result of the interplay of different kinds of energies and consciousness. Scientifically, we all know that. Science has not been able to discover or classify all the vibrations working even on the physical plane, and will perhaps never be able to do so on account of their complexity and subtlety. We cannot therefore hope to investigate fully by ordinary methods the extremely complex and subtle vibrations working on all the planes, physical or superphysical. Now, another important principle which we have to understand in connection with the theory of mantra yoga is that vibration not only lies at the basis of form, but is also necessary for manifestation of consciousness. The simplest manner in which this connection between vibration and consciousness can be understood is to study deeply the mechanism of sensation, how the external world around us is cognized by the indwelling consciousness through the instrumentality of the sense organs. With these fundamental ideas clear in our mind, we can, to a certain extent, understand the theory of mantra yoga. And how are mantras constructed? What is their essential nature? Generally, a mantra is a combination of sounds, and sounds can be repeated by the alphabet of a language. Mantras are constructed by arranging the letters of the alphabet in certain permutations and combinations for exact and correct pronunciation. This can obviously be done only by a person who knows the subtler properties of the different sounds. And again, the repetition of a chosen mantra with the object of bringing about certain changes in our mind. These changes in the long run resulting in the influx of powers and forces from the higher planes and experiences of higher states of consciousness. The mantra may be uttered loud, muttered silently, or repeated mentally. That's what we do generally. Sometimes we, with a loud voice, chant the even Pranaba mantra, Pranaba Dhvani, Om. We also silently can mutter the Om. Sometimes people who get into deeper level of meditative aspects, they just repeat the Om chanting mentally. The silent repetition is more effective than the loud, while the purely mental repetition has the highest effect. Now, coming to the Gayatri mantra, as we know what is mantra, how to chant, what is repetition of mantra. Now, let us focus on the words that constitute the Gayatri mantra. So, let me just chant. Anyone who can chant with me together can do it, maybe without opening your mic. Om Bhu, Om Bhuvah, Om Suvah, Om Mahah, Om Janah, Om Tapah, Om Satyam, Tat Savitu Varenyam, Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Dhiyo Yonah Prachodayat. Om Apo Jyotirsamrutam Brahma, Bhurbhuva Suvarom. Coming back, starting with the 7 spheres of existence, beginning with the physical, we meditate upon the divine light of the adorable sun of the spiritual consciousness, which stimulates our power of spiritual perception. Om is the water, light, essence, the immortal, reality, physical, intermediate, and heaven worlds is Om. This Vedic mantra, with which most people are familiar, is one of a class of mantras for practically every important divinity. As will be seen from a few representative mantras, like if I kind of take you through the repetitive mantras, how Gayatri was coming into picture. There is this Vishnu Gayatri. Narayanaya vidmahe Vasudevaya dhimahi Tanu Vishnu prachodayat. We know Narayana. We meditate on Vasudeva. May Vishnu inspire that knowledge and meditation of ours. Then there is Shiva Gayatri. Tat Purusaya vidmahe Mahadevaya dhimahi Tana Rudra prachodayat. We know that spirit, we meditate on Mahadeva. May Rudra inspire that knowledge and meditation of ours. Then there is Dakshinamurti Gayatri. Dakshina Murtaya vidmahe Dhyanasthaya dhimahi Tanu Disha prachodayat. We know Dakshinamurti, benevolent form of Rudra. We meditate on him. May the Lord of higher intelligence inspire that knowledge and meditation of ours. Then again, Durga Gayatri. Mahadevai cha vidmahe Durga Devai dhimahi Tano Devi prachodayat. We know the great goddess. We meditate on Durga. May the goddess inspire that knowledge and meditation of ours. Same format. Only we are invoking different powers. Now, according to orthodox views, Sudras and women are not entitled to recite the Vedic Gayatri. And that is perhaps the reason why the other Gayatris are promulgated. We shall confine to the well-known Gayatri mantra. It is a mantra and prayer combined. The Gayatri mantra embodies in the form of a mantra the highest spiritual aspirations of which a human soul is capable. When the power of mantra is thus combined with the power of a prayer, we get a far more effective instrument for the unfoldment of our spiritual potentialities. Now, the first part of Gayatri mantra start with the pranaba, Om, which we pronounce like a, u and ma. It affects the very heart of the individual and influences the most important and fundamental relation existing in nature, the relation between the monad and Supreme Spirit, Jivatma and Paramatma. It is the verbal expression of Ishvara as indicated on the Yoga Sutra. Tasya Vachaka Pranava. What Pranava is to our solar system, the Mahavyartis are to the presiding deities of the lowest three planes in which we live our ordinary life, the physical, astral, and mental. These three Mahavyartis are the need mantras of the three divinities, who are called Agni, Vayu, and Aditya. Now, in the second part of Gayatri Mantra, which is really an invocation to Savita for more light and to men to fan the spark of spiritual aspiration in the aspirant into as roaring flame. It is a call of the individual soul to the universal being, the source and goal of his life. It is not a call of for something for worldly objects, even for happiness. It is a call for enlightenment of the highest kind, for that knowledge which will make him realize his oneness with the source of all knowledge, power and bliss. Generally, by the word Savita, we mean the sun, which is the center of the solar system, and round which all planets are revolving. Science has shown that sun is the source for all kinds of energies which are needed for life in the solar system. But science considers the sun merely as a huge ball of fire whose energy is being maintained by the conversion of hydrogen into helium. The thermonuclear reaction underlying the production of the hydrogen bomb. This mighty center of physical energy is continuously pouring out all kinds of vibrations and energy into the solar system. And the heat, light, and other kinds of energies are utilized for maintaining life in all its forms on our planet. When, as a result of self-training, the inner eyes of a man reopen, a tremendous, breathtaking mystery reveals itself within his consciousness. The other sun, tremendously glorious and awe-inspiring as it is seen to be a mere physical vehicle of a mighty and stupendous consciousness which pervades the solar system in layer after layer of unimaginable glory. This spiritual sun of consciousness is Savita. What is this light bharga of Savita? Just as the physical sun is an orb of incandescent gases, but it is surrounded by an aura of light of decreasing intensity, in the same way, the spiritual sun is the very core of the spiritual consciousness. But that spiritual consciousness is stepped down in the various planes, lokas, which as it were constitute his vehicles. We can therefore contact his stepped down consciousness at different levels by going into different and deeper layers of our own consciousness. The ultimate reality is indivisible and changeless. The process of self-realization will thus be seen to be a gradual stepping up of our own consciousness to the consciousness of the solar locus. As we pass one height after another, we get a grander view of the surrounding panorama. It is not only that we get a more glorious vision of the reality, but we'll find ourselves becoming more and more one with the reality we perceive. And we say Varenyam. Why is this light called Varenyam? The Sanskrit word Varenyam means most excellent and therefore desirable or worthy of being striven after. After what has been said about the nature of the light, it is hardly necessary to show that it is the one thing in human life which must be striven after with all one's heart and soul. The third part of Gayatri Mantra involves a complete reversal of the attitude involved in the second part. In the last part, the aspirant surrenders himself completely to the divine and thus makes it possible for the divine forces to flow into his vehicles so as to purify those vehicles and to raise them to a higher degree of sensitivity and capacity for enlightenment. When we adopt a positive attitude based on resolve in a prayer, we build up or arouse spiritual forces within, the deeper layers of our being. But those forces remain in abeyance on account of the presence of egoism, which underlies all kinds of resolve. When we shift our attitude to that of self-surrender, the obstruction caused by egoism is removed or attenuated, and these spiritual forces, which are referred to as grace, flow into our mind. The study of mere theoretical aspects of a subject like Gayatri, even though it is deep and detailed, is more or less futile, although many students allow themselves to remain contented with such a study. It is essential for people interested in problems of the inner life to realize the futility of purely theoretical study of these problems and the danger of confusing learning with spirituality. There's a large number of people who allow themselves to be lulled into spiritual sleep by brilliant expositions of philosophical doctrines by the intellectually clever people, and who wake up too late in life to find that all their theoretical study is not of the slightest use to them in solving life's problems or in gaining any measure of inner peace and strength. In the repetition and meditation of Gayatri, the aspirant invokes Gayatri for the divine light, which is derived from the solar logos. And this light has to be received in the aspirant's mind. For that, the mind should be in a fit condition to receive the light. Pure consciousness may be considered as reality, which is indivisible, changeless, and without attributes. So when consciousness manifests on different planes, endowed with different kinds of attributes, we must be dealing not with consciousness itself, but with different grades of mind. The perception of the truths of the higher life in general and of the divine being whom we seek to contact in Gayatri worship in particular depend upon the condition of our own vehicles, upon how pure and sensitive they are, to what extent they can reflect the consciousness in our mind. Otherwise, it's like, eating something and not being able to digest it. It's as simple as that. We are not ready for, receiving that consciousness, that higher vibrations. So it all starts from, getting started with the purity of our body and mind. The capacity of our vehicle to reflect the higher consciousness or to bring down spiritual forces from the higher planes depends upon three factors. Upon the nature of material composition of the vehicles. The finer this material, the more easily the vehicle can respond to the finer vibrations of the higher planes. Second factor is attunement of the mind to the higher ideals. And this corresponds to the tension of the wires on the musical instrument. If the mind of the aspirant is full of the right emotions and aspirations, if there is present a high degree of self-surrender and the soul is yearning for union with divinity, then only can the divine player play effectively upon the vehicles and bring out from the exquisite music. The third factor is the harmonizing of the different vehicles among themselves. All of them should not only be attuned to the highest ideals, but they should also be perfectly harmonized among themselves. Like, if physically I'm something, emotionally I'm something, mentally I'm something, I'm not in sync, my thoughts, my emotions, my actions are not in sync, nothing is going to really work upon me. Forget about even the higher, even in the lower world. If I'm not in sync, I'm not actually, moving forward, developing. So all of them, that this is very important, all of our vehicles should not be just attuned to the highest ideals, but it should have perfect harmony among all vehicles. If the desires draw the aspirant in different directions, if the intuition doesn't approve of what the mind decides, there is bound to be inner conflict and disharmony, and the mind is like a chariot whose horses draw it in different directions. Our success in invoking the highest forces and powers through practices depend on our own faith, the kind of Shraddha Bhav we have, the degree of our conviction or realization about their existence, and the earnestness with which we approach them. A fool can take all kinds of superstitions and beliefs as the promptings of intuitions, but the two are poles apart. Those who have experience of intuition cannot confuse the one with the other. If the aspirant can mistake the voice of desire for that of intuition, then he has to go through the consequences of this confusion and learn through experience and purification to distinguish between the two. sometimes we do not get the right message actually. I mean, we don't interpret the right message, what we hear, whether it's the voice of my desire or whether it's the voice of my intuition. There is generally a subconscious doubt present in the mind, in everybody's mind, I would say, whoever is aspiring. A real and perfect faith can come only from experience. And as no real experience is generally possible to a doubting mind, such a person seems to be really involved in a vicious circle. The only way to break this vicious circle is to think deeply, constantly over these problems, to go back repeatedly and examine with an open mind the fundamental varieties of spiritual life, and thus to build up sufficient faith to be able to go through the practices, at least with sincerity and earnestness. It's not just chanting a mantra. We are invoking something. We are trying to receive some higher consciousness. It's not a joke. Slowly and surely, the vicious circle will be replaced by a virtuous circle. The inner intuition will begin to dawn and give to the aspirant that indomitable faith which nothing can shake. Now, we should note that imagination is of great help in these matters and should be utilized as much as possible to increase the efficacy of these practices. Imagination is one of the most important and efficacious mental tools we possess, not only for gaining success in the field of science and art, but also in that of self-realization, which we call visualization, right? Theory and practice are two indispensable factors of self-training, but of the two, practice is more important. There are many ways of getting the same result, and there can no harm if the aspirant uses his common sense in these matters and adopts an experimental attitude. Every individual soul is unique and has its own unique way of reaching the common goal. In the path of evolution, we discuss and read about it. Everybody is moving on the path of evolution, and everybody is at a different pace and different space, different time. Each man is to himself absolutely the way, the truth, and the life. All people cannot and should not be forced into the same mold as is sometimes sought to be done. Everyone should have a certain amount of freedom in these matters, and while keeping the fundamental principles in view, should be allowed to pick and choose with regard to the minor techniques he is to adopt in reaching his goal. So one can go with only chanting of Gayatri. That will definitely help creating vibrations. With understanding when you do it, the meaning of it, like we discussed, you will get closer to thought, feelings, vibrations receiving. And the more and more you are into contemplating and meditative repetition of the mantra, you would get the higher vibrations coming to you. So not necessarily everybody would immediately start getting into this meditative repetition. Let us repeat. Let us create vibrations. It's like when you get angry and you start counting 1 to 10 or 1 to 100. In my childhood, my parents had this, unique way of, start counting. You are getting disturbed, start counting. I vaguely remember. This is one of the anger control exercises I would be, remembering from my childhood. You're upset, start counting. Similarly, if you think that you're struggling, if you think that you are not getting the solution of your problem, and every problem has a solution, rather, I would say. So if you cannot look at the solution side of the problem, focus on any mantra you think. Why only Gayatri? Any mantra, start with that. It's an attitude. It's an attitude that will help all of us to get closer to the highest mantra. Let us start with any mantra. Let us try to understand the impact of mantra yoga. Then come closer to Gayatri. Even the child is only chanting Om Bhur Bhuva, so let the child do that, no issues. But as elders, we should, start communicating with the child. Do you know the meaning, what you are uttering? The moment the child knows, okay, this is what I'm uttering and this is the meaning of it. Wow, I should do it more often. And the more and more we grow and the more and more we go deep into it, we will connect to the real of it. Not just the outer things of it. There is, as we all know, there are always an inner thing of things. So it's not about the outer thing of things, the inner thing of things should work as well. I hope you will all agree on that. So Gayatri is definitely a repetitive meditative mantra, but we cannot force everybody to start jumping into this action immediately. Whoever is practicing, good enough. Whoever is practicing at, as I said, loud, silent, and mental repetition. Whatever level we are, we should go step by step. That is what I wanted to talk about, the importance and the significance of Gayatri in our life. I don't know, like if I'm allowed to show a video. I received a video from my father some 2-3 days back. I don't know like how he got hold of it. This was all about Gayatri. Then I thought, okay, since I'm going to have a talk on Gayatri, maybe I could use that. So that was about. Hello?
Sure, you can share.
Yeah, this is 7 minutes video on Gayatri. Maybe I can just.
गायत्री मंत्र साइंस को ध्यान में रखते हुए बनाया हुआ वो अनमोल मंत्र है.
Let me just share it, huh?
Okay.
I think it will help everybody, and it's in Hindi, and it will give some other side of the story also, if not theosophical angle, but at least day-to-day connect we can establish. The vibration part at least is there. Very good. WhatsApp खोल ची ये वॉल्यूम कम थी वो
माइक तो बंद है ना.
नहीं माइक बंद नहीं है मेरा. गूगल मीट का माइक ऑफ करो.
अच्छा
नहीं व्हाट्सएप तो है ही. ये इसमें खुला है. उधर जा सकते हैं, एंटर स्क्रीन में जा सकते हैं.
मुझे पहले यहाँ से ले लो.
और इधर से खोल दो. इसमें व्हाट्सएप खोल दो. It will just take half a minute, but we should watch it. By the time I'm showing this video, okay, my mic is on. By the time I'm showing this video, anyone wants to say a few words can start, and then when I'm on, I'll intimate. Yes.
Yes, we all must thank you, Suvarlina, and we felt it was, too early that you have finished. I mean, we were so engrossed, and you have taken the whole story right from Gayatri, different Gayatris, Om, Trinity, everything what all is not covered, and ultimately the message I got it is up to the aspirant not to be satisfied with only the theoretical knowledge, the intelligence, but to be meditative,
गायत्री मंत्र
to aspire to unfold his consciousness, to merge with the ultimate consciousness. Because it is very elaborate, very, very unfolding. Very nicely you have explained and taken us right from construction of the mantras, the repetition, the knowledge of the sages who created these mantras, having all the consonants and their impact. And in the whole episode, what I have understood and realized and read is that the pronunciation of each word is equally important. Rather more important. Just reading, understanding, analyzing is not enough. When we are repeating it loud, slow, mentally, whatever, every consonant, every word, because ultimately again it comes to word and sound, which is a total universal formation and which ultimately merges with the Om only. So very beautifully explained, very beautifully said. After you have played the video, then we'll open the forum for all the participants.
Sure, I'm just sharing the video then, huh?
Sure. Thank you once again.
Yeah.
गायत्री मंत्र साइंस को ध्यान में रखते हुए बनाया हुआ वो अनमोल मंत्र है जिसकी जब साइंस पता लगी
तो साइंटिस्ट भी हैरान रह गए। हेलो फ्रेंड्स, नमस्कार, आदाब, सत श्री अकाल। गायत्री मंत्र हम स्कूल टाइम से उच्चारण करते आ रहे हैं, पर हमने कभी जाना कि उसका एक्चुअल मीनिंग क्या है, कितनी गहराई है उसमें, क्या साइंस है उसकी। हम उस समय में जी रहे हैं जहां एक तरफ वो लोग हैं जो पुराणों को समझना ही नहीं चाहते। तब टेक्नोलॉजी नहीं थी, इसलिए उनकी बात पे भरोसा ही नहीं, उनको सब काल्पनिक लगता है। और एक तरफ वो लोग हैं जो पुराणों और वेदों की बातों को श्रद्धा की वजह से आंख बंद करके हर बात मान लेते हैं। मैं माफी चाहूंगा, पर दोनों तरह के लोग गलत हैं। गायत्री मंत्र का उच्चारण कैसे करते हैं? ओम भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। इस मंत्र को हम ध्यान करते हुए और जाप करते हुए उपयोग में लाते हैं। गायत्री मंत्र 8 अक्षरों की 3 पंक्तियों में बहुत अच्छे से मोतियों की तरह पिरोया गया है। गायत्री मंत्र की शुरुआत ओम से होती है, जिसका मतलब है वो ऊर्जा जिसने पूरे ब्रह्मांड को बनाया है, जो परब्रह्म है, परमात्मा है। भू भुवः स्वः। भू मतलब भूमि लोक, भवः मतलब अंतरिक्ष लोक, स्वः मतलब स्वर्ग लोक। ये 3 शब्द गायत्री मंत्र में ये बताते हैं कि हम अपनी एनर्जीज को भूमि से स्वर्ग मतलब नीचे से ऊपर ले जा सकें। आध्यात्मिक भाषा में आपको मैं बताऊं तो स्थूल से सूक्ष्म में हम ले जा सकें। इस मंत्र में धीमहि शब्द का अर्थ है हम लोग ध्यान करते हैं, आराधना करते हैं। हम किस पे ध्यान और आराधना करते हैं? तत्भर्गः मतलब प्रतिभा और गुणों पे। ये प्रतिभा और गुण किस तरीके के हैं? वरेण्यम भर्गः मतलब ये प्रतिभा और गुण सर्वश्रेष्ठ हैं। ये सर्वश्रेष्ठ प्रतिभा और गुण किसके हैं? देवस्य मतलब जो बहुत दिव्य है, जो बहुत चमकदार है, सूरज की तरह। ये बहुत दिव्य और चमकदार कौन है? सवितुः देवस्य मतलब जिन्होंने इस संसार की रचना करी, जिन्होंने हमें और सारे जीव जंतुओं को जन्म दिया। हम उनकी आराधना, उन पे ध्यान क्यों करते हैं? प्रचोदयात् ताकि वो प्रेरित कर सकें और चला सकें। किसको चला सकें? नः धियः मतलब हमारे दिमागों को किस दिशा में प्रेरित कर सके और चला सके। जैसे कि मैंने आपको शुरुआत में भी बताया, भू भुवः स्वः मतलब हमारे सारे कष्टों का निवारण कर सकें, हम में सकारात्मक ऊर्जा भर सकें और हमें सही तरह से सफलता के मार्ग में मार्गदर्शन कर सकें। तो गायत्री मंत्र का मतलब क्या हुआ? जिन्होंने हमें जन्म दिया, जीवन दिया, हम उस सर्वश्रेष्ठ परमात्मा जो सूर्य की तरह चमकदार हैं, उनका ध्यान करते हैं ताकि हमें उनकी ऊर्जा का भाग मिल सके और वो हमारे मस्तिष्क को ऊर्जावान बनाएं, हमारे जीवन से बुराइयों को नष्ट करें, हमें सकारात्मक बनाएं और हमारा सही तरह से सफलता के मार्ग में मार्गदर्शन करें। गायत्री मंत्र का एक लॉन्गर वर्जन भी है। ओम भू, ओम भुवः, ओम स्वः, ओम मः, ओम जनः, ओम तपः, ओम सत्यम, ओम तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ओम आपो ज्योति रसो अमृतम ब्रह्म भूभुर्वः स्वरोम। गायत्री मंत्र के शब्दों का अर्थ तो मैं आप लोगों को बता ही चुका हूं। इस लॉन्गर वर्जन में जो 2 एक्स्ट्रा लाइंस हैं उनके बारे में हम जानते हैं। ओम मः, ओम जनः, ओम तपः, ओम सत्यम। इनका संबंध हमारे साथ बहुत महत्वपूर्ण कुंडलिनी चक्रों से है। और आखिरी में ओम आपो ज्योति रसो अमृतम ब्रह्म भूभुर्वः स्वरोम मतलब तीनों लोग और सब कुछ जो इस संसार में है, सब ओम की ध्वनि में समाया हुआ है। इस मंत्र को संध्या के समय योग क्रिया प्राणायाम करते समय करते हैं। इस मंत्र के बारे में यजुर्वेद के तैत्तिरीय अरण्यक में दिया गया है। गायत्री मंत्र को ऋग्वेद के अनुसार सावित्री माता को समर्पित किया है। सावित्री माता जो 5 तत्व जिनसे ब्रह्मांड बना है, उनके भगवान हैं। गायत्री माता को वेदों की माता कहा जाता है। हमारे शरीर में बड़े छोटे दिखने वाले और ना दिखने वाले कई तरीके की ग्रंथियां मतलब ग्लैंड्स हैं। इन ग्लैंड्स में बहुत स्पेशल एनर्जीज होती हैं। इनमें से षट चक्र मतलब 6 सेंटर एनर्जी ग्लैंड्स काफी प्रसिद्ध हैं। गायत्री मंत्र के अक्षरों के उच्चारण से इन ग्लैंड्स पे प्रभाव पड़ता है और वो एक्टिवेट हो जाते हैं। गायत्री मंत्र 24 अक्षरों से बना है और ये सारे अक्षर हमारे शरीर के 24 ग्लैंड से जुड़े हैं, जो इनके उच्चारण के बाद एक्टिवेट हो जाते हैं और दिमाग की शक्तियों को जागृत कर देते हैं। जब इन 24 पॉइंट्स पे मंत्र की वजह से कंपन होती है तो साउंड की वेव्स उन इंपॉर्टेंट ग्लैंड्स को स्वस्थ रखने में बहुत मदद करती हैं। 1,10,000 1,10,000 साउंड वेव्स पर सेकंड निकलती हैं गायत्री मंत्र के जाप से। साइंटिस्ट के मुताबिक ये हमारे शरीर के लिए बहुत ही हेल्दी और हेल्पफुल मानी जाती हैं। अमेरिका के एक बहुत फेमस डॉक्टर हैं जो साउंड वेव से ट्रीटमेंट करते हैं और उन्होंने भी माना है कि इस मंत्र का उच्चारण कई बड़ी बीमारियां तक ठीक कर देता है। बहुत से लोग ये भ्रम फैला रहे हैं कि गायत्री मंत्र को ठीक से ना जपने की वजह से काफी नुकसान हो सकता है। इसको विधि विधान के साथ ही करना चाहिए। इस बात के लिए मार्कंडे ऋषि ने कहा है, गायत्री मंत्र किसी भी प्रकार से करने से अंदर से शुद्ध होते हैं और सभी इच्छाएं पूरी होती हैं। हालांकि अनुष्ठान करने से लाभ ज्यादा मिलता है, पर इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि विधि के साथ ना करने से नुकसान होता है। गायत्री मंत्र को करने का सही समय प्रभात और संध्या का समय होता है, मतलब सुबह के 4 बजे से 8 बजे के बीच और शाम को 4 बजे से 8 बजे के बीच का। गायत्री मंत्र का 108 बार जाप करना चाहिए। देखिए, जब इस मंत्र की ताकत को दुनिया के बड़े बड़े साइंटिस्ट मान चुके हों, तो इस मंत्र का जाप करते हुए कभी शर्माइएगा नहीं। आप कहीं पे भी हों, चाहे आप घर पे हैं, स्कूल में हैं, ऑफिस में हैं या कुछ भी काम कर रहे हैं, मन मन में इसका जाप करते रहिए। साइंटिस्ट तक मानते हैं और डॉक्टर्स भी मानते हैं कि ये हमारी बॉडी और हेल्थ के लिए बहुत उपयोगी है।
Thank you. Suvarlina ji, I can see one question in the chat box. Brother Deepak Mutreja ka hai. I have a question. Why Shudra should not chant Gayatri Mantra? I think you have replied, but you can just...
No, I did not reply. I said there was some orthodox belief.
Okay.
See, there are always statements which people interpret on their own. Shudras could be a state of mind, not the physical Shudra, right?
Yes, not by birth.
Exactly. Yes, I mean, by birth also, I mean, it's like I have enough examples of people who are physically dirty but have a very cleaner mind. Otherwise, Sri Rama should not have taken the bear ka phal from the Shabari. Sri Rama could have thought of, I am from the royal palace and this lady is in the jungle, could be dirty, don't know whether she has, plucked the fruits like this, has washed or not. A lot of unhygienic things he could have thought of. The Lord did not think about it. There are many incidents where, who we, worship, the idols we worship, they have even gone and, eaten jhutan of their devotees. So that is story in Odisha. I mean, in the Lakshmi Purana, I don't know if you have heard about the story. Lakshmi Mata had been to a Chandal's house. Chandal, I don't know what is the meaning of a Chandal. Even there's a term Chandal, I only know. Whether it's a dirty person or a by birth, it is a categorized thing, I don't know. But there is this Chandal. She had been there, for which Balram and Sri Jagannath were kind of, they were arguing, like other people are saying your wife is going to Chandal's house and all, and there was a full episode of arguments, and then at the end Lakshmi leaves the temple, she goes around, then Jagannath and Balabhadra, they realize no, we shouldn't have done it. So cutting the story short, there have been many episodes in Puranas, in our mythological stories. This is all a state of mind people are thinking of. Shudras doesn't mean by birth you are doing that. It's about a state of mind. Yes, if by mind I'm Shudra, I will not get any effect of it. That's it. That is it. So it's not about should not chant Gayatri Mantra. It's maybe about the cleanliness of mind. Then only you can do it or something like that. But see, in the video also and in the book, Taimini ji has also clarified. Even if you do it, your mind is pure. You do it anywhere, anytime. It's like meditative state. You cannot say that I will just sit on this chair and then only I'll meditate. No, somebody who's meditative can meditate anywhere, right? It's about that.
Many thanks, madam. Very clear.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I think Taneja ji, it's time. So any announcements?
Yes. Thank you, Sarolina ji, so much, and thank you all. You also, Kanchan ji. But just before you end up this meeting, I would like to announce one thing. Next week, Brother Shikhar Agnihotri will be giving a talk on 7 portals from the voice of silence. So a very good illuminating talk. Please do attend at that point. Now,
So we conclude with prayer before that.
Yes.
So Varlina, once again, thank you for this beautiful, beautiful talk on this subject.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, all of you.
Yes. Then Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhavet. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Thank you everyone for joining and making the session lively with your presence.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you next week again, all of you.
Thank you, Virenji. Thank you.